Hey, I'm Jessie, and welcome to another That's My Story Throwback episode. Sorry if I sound a bit funny today, I'm not feeling super well. I'll tell you what would make me feel better though. A reunion! Or would it? These stories are all about reuniting with others. For some, it was a good thing. For others, not so great. Or, as you'll see, some are just completely outrageous. This first story has it all. Love, drama, revenge, betrayal, and a miracle. Sylvia found out that she isn't her parents' biological daughter after her brother became ill. This clip shows the moment that she met her biological mother for the first time, and Jenny, who she was switched at birth with.
When we got home, Mom said, "You'll go with your dad. I need to stay with Kevin." The next morning, we got on the first flight to their city. We were sure that this time the door was going to be answered, and it was. My biological mother and I looked so much alike that it felt like I was looking in the mirror and seeing myself 20 to 25 years later. We both started crying at the same time. She hugged me and started kissing me. I do the same thing, hug and kiss, so now I know where that comes from. We went inside. My dad was so nervous he kept looking around. He and my real mom and I looked at each other. "Isn't your daughter home?" he asked. "She is, but she is very anxious. She doesn't know what to do." "Let me go see if she wants to come out," she said. She came back with her daughter a few minutes later. I'll never forget the shocked expression on my dad's face. He was spellbound. My dad had lost his mom at a very young age. Apparently his real daughter looked a lot like his mom. He hugged her and started crying. Then he called me over and hugged both of us.
What would you do if you found out you weren't your parents' biological child? Watch the full, unbelievable story to find out if Sylvia and Jenny had a happy ending. Tamara was moved by how caring all of the parents involved were. Sonali thinks this is the cutest story they've ever heard, and they agree with Ayushi, who's glad the family got back together. Next up, let's watch a reunion between Beatrice and her father, who went missing after her parents divorced. After she moved to a new city, she befriended a homeless man. Let's see what happened next.
When we got to the soup kitchen, I took him to the bathroom. "You need to wash your hands. You can't eat like this," I told him. He still didn't react. I went in with him. I turned on the water. I washed his hands with soap. Then I lathered his face for a really long time. Then I rinsed it with water. When he looked up, I couldn't believe my eyes. It was my father. "Dad!" I screamed and hugged him. He didn't respond. "Dad, it's me, Beatrice, your daughter, Beatrice!" I was screaming. I finally found my dad, but he didn't seem to recognize me. He was just staring at his face in the mirror. That was probably because he was seeing his own face for the first time in years. We had a volunteer at the shelter named Matthew. I thought he could help me because he was homeless too. When I told my story to Matthew, he was really surprised. "I've seen your dad around for years. He never talks to anyone. He's always been this way. He probably has a mental illness," he said. I couldn't take him home in this condition. Matthew lived in an abandoned building with a few other people. I asked, "Can my dad stay with you for a while? I'm going to look for a way to take him to a doctor." He nodded. He promised me he'd look after my dad. That night when I came home, I told my mom and Brett that I found my father. My mom couldn't believe what she was hearing. She said, "Are you sure? Maybe it's just someone who looks like him." I said, "I thought about that too. That's why I'm going to do a little test tomorrow." Brett said, "I can help you find a doctor," and I was so moved that I hugged him. I told you he was a really nice person. The next day, I went to where Matthew lived. My dad was sitting outside staring blankly into space. I took out my ukulele. Yes, that was the test. If it was really my father, I thought he'd definitely react to the ukulele. But he didn't even look at me. I started playing, trying to remember some of the chords he had taught me. After a little while, he reached over. He touched the ukulele and said, "Kitty guitar." I looked at his face. He looked at me. "Kitty guitar," he repeated. I embraced him and began to cry. My dad kept saying, kitty guitar," as if he was desperately holding on to something he had trouble remembering.
What would you have done in Beatrice's situation? Derek thinks that this story is sad, but cute at the same time. Ice Queen says how amazingly small the world is. Totally. And Georgina keeps rewatching this episode. Thanks for being such a fan, Georgina. Sometimes a phone call can change your life, and that's exactly what happened to Isabel. She was living with her mum's boyfriend and his daughter, who were all against her. But this phone call changed everything.
One day, the miracle that I needed happened. My phone rang. The person on the line said, "I'm your grandmother. I would like to meet you and your mom if you let me." We met up the next day. When my dad was only 4 years old, my grandmother abandoned him. He never forgave her for that. In the years that followed, she tried to get in touch with him many times, but my dad refused to communicate with her. She told us all about this in tears. He was right because I'd left him. I have immense regret. However, unfortunately, it's not possible to turn back time. My grandmother had just recently found out that my dad had died. She thought we might be able to use some help with money, so she tracked us down and finally reached me. She told us, "My second husband was very wealthy. I lost him last year. I have no one to share this fortune with. Do you want to move in with me?" she asked. My mom was pregnant at that time. She said, "I have a new family now, but I know Isabel is not happy. She can live with you if she likes." My grandmother seemed like a really nice person. Even if she wasn't, I'd still move in with her, since my stepfather and stepsister were making my life unbearable. I agreed right away. That night, I said goodbye to my mom and left home. My grandmother was really wealthy. She lived in a magnificent mansion. The best part was that she was even kinder than I thought. She kept telling me, "I feel like I've been born again. Isabel, I'm so grateful to you for making me feel this way. I'll send you to the best schools. Eventually, all this will belong to you anyway." I didn't care about being rich. I was at peace now. And that was more valuable to me than all the money in the world. That summer, something unexpected happened. My grandmother suddenly died after an accident. She went out on a tour of the Greek islands with her close friends. While swimming in the sea, a poisonous fish stung her. They didn't make it to the hospital in time. She died on the way. I was incredibly sad. She had once told me, "When I die, I'd like you to build a school so that my name can live on." I immediately got to work to make her wish come true.
Do you think Isabel's stepdad ever changed his ways? Watch the full episode to find out whether he did or not. We seem to have some very kind and forgiving subscribers. Espion says how it takes courage to stand up to horrible people, but even more courage and kindness to forgive. And they're proud of Isabel's actions. And Anthony says how a little kindness can go a long way. Our final clip for today is from the unbelievable story about a family who had to disappear when they realised that their dad had accidentally become involved with the Mafia. This clip is from the moment the family realised that they were being followed.
We were all very nervous, but from what I could see, my dad was the most nervous of the three of us. He had even started sweating. I couldn't stop myself from asking him, "Dad, are we being followed?" Dad said, "Don't look back. There's a white car following us. It slows down as we slow down and goes faster as we go faster." This was exactly what we were afraid of. They had found us. My mom asked in an anxious tone, "What are we going to do?" My dad said, "I'll get off the highway." He took the first exit he saw. Soon after that, my dad got a new text. "When you're being followed, the best thing to do is to stay on a busy road. You are now going towards somewhere quiet. Your followers can do anything they want to you there. Thankfully, no one is following you. I'm the car you're scared of. Stop after half a mile. You will see a cornfield at 9 o'clock. Get out of the car and walk into the field." That's how we met the agent that saved our family. His name was Adams. To be honest, he didn't look like the spy I had in mind. I was expecting someone good-looking like James Bond. He wasn't even charismatic. On the other hand, Mr. Adams was an experienced agent who worked in the Secret Service for 35 years. It was thanks to him that we were going to get out of the trouble we found ourselves in. Mr. Adams gave us our fake IDs. All our names had been changed, both first and last. Coincidentally, the name he gave me was the same as my best friend's. I was so happy for this coincidence. My mom didn't like her new name at all, but there was nothing she could do about it. Our agent told us, "Memorize everything that's on your IDs. From now on, refer to each other using your new names even when you're alone. This is how you can adapt to your new life."
Whoa. Would you cut your hair or change your name in that scenario? Would it be a good thing or a bad thing to not have to go to school? This story seems to be a few people's favourites. Amen, Caroline and Mika's. Logan thinks it'd make a great movie. I wonder who should play the part of the dad. Let's end on one of my favourite comments of the day from Sunita, who says, "You are as brave as a dinosaur and your family is too." Watch the whole video to see what happened after their dad had a change of heart. You can find links to all of today's stories in the description, or the iCards. I'm going to try and shift this cold now by making a hot chocolate, curling under a blanket, and by being as brave as a dinosaur. Come back soon to watch more stories with me, and remember to subscribe so that you never miss out on a new upload. Thanks for hearing our stories.